In January 2022, deep beneath the Arctic, a single undersea cable to Svalbard is mysteriously severed, plunging Norway's communications into chaos for 11 days. Authorities scramble, uncertainty reigns, and suddenly the hidden world of seabed warfare comes into focus. This wasn't an accident, it was a warning, and Norway, with its vast Arctic seafloor and limited navy, responded by unleashing a wave of unmanned technology and building defenses that the rest of Europe could only watch. But as the UK races to turn entire ships into seabed guardians, the balance of global security is quietly shifting beneath the waves. The question is, why are these two nations poised to control the future of undersea warfare? And what happens if they fail? Alarms started blinking in the Svalbard cable landing station just after midnight. Telenor engineers hunched over traffic logs, watching latency spike and data packets vanish into the Arctic dark. Within the hour, a single fiber optic line, the digital lifeline between Norway and Svalbard, had gone silent. 11 days of degraded communications followed. Banking, weather reporting, and even satellite uplinks stuttered. For the engineers, it was more than a technical hiccup. It was a gut-punch reminder that all of Norway's northern reach hung by a thread. Oslo's Defense Command didn't wait for explanations. Naval watch officers went on high alert, combing through ship tracking data and old maintenance logs for clues. With suspicion swirling around foreign research vessels, Norway's military scrambled to secure the rest of its undersea infrastructure. Orders went out for immediate deployment of Kongsberg-Hugin autonomous underwater vehicles. These weren't science fair robots. They were deep-diving, battery-swapping, stealthy sentinels able to sweep cable routes and sniff out sabotage in waters where even submarines struggled. The first sortie launched in freezing wind, batteries hot-swapped in the snow as operators fed encrypted routes to the AUV's navigation suite. The Hugin's side-scan sonar painted high-resolution swaths of the seabed, mapping every cable twist, searching for signs of tampering. Autonomous, quiet, and nearly invisible, it covered ground a manned crew could never hope to reach, relaying encrypted logs back to the mainland. In the days that followed, sorties leapfrogged along the Arctic sea floor, each mission a rolling test of Norway's new doctrine: resilience through autonomy, coverage through machines. The old model, waiting for a Navy ship to show up, was finished. Now, Norway's best defense moved at the speed of the threat, with unmanned eyes patrolling the dark. 11 days to restore redundancy, but the lesson landed in hours. In the age of seabed warfare, vulnerability isn't hypothetical. It's a live wire, humming under the ice, and someone else always knows where to cut. Norway's answer to living on the edge of the world is a sandbox, just not the kind you find in a playground. In 2025, the Norwegian Defense Ministry is opening a dedicated maritime test bed in the Arctic, purpose-built for trial by ice and uncertainty. Here, engineers from Kongsberg and military planners will throw every tool in the toolbox at one problem: how to defend a 2 million square kilometer stretch of ocean floor with fewer ships than some navies keep in port. The test bed isn't just a research site, it's a full-scale rehearsal space, wired with real pipelines, energy nodes, and lengths of cable that snake across the seabed like veins under translucent skin. The geography alone would give most admirals a headache. The Norwegian exclusive economic zone is vast, cold, and stubbornly remote. Traditional patrols can't keep up. There just aren't enough hulls or crew to go around. That's why Norway's doctrine now reads more like a tech startup's playbook than a Cold War navy's. Every new system gets a trial run in the test bed. Autonomous underwater vehicles equipped with high-definition sonar, sensor swarms that listen for the faintest scrape of a hull, and sub-ice robots built to hunt in the dark. When a new threat appears, say, a suspicious vessel shadowing a cable, planners can simulate an attack, deploy autonomous countermeasures, and measure response times down to the minute, all without leaving home waters. The real genius lies in the feedback loop. After each exercise, operators swap batteries, download encrypted logs, and tweak algorithms for the next round. If a sensor fails in -20 wind, it gets replaced. If an autonomous underwater vehicle loses its way under polar ice, navigation protocols are rewritten before sunrise. This relentless cycle turns every sortie into a lesson, every setback into a software update. For Norway, autonomy isn't a gadget, it's the only way to stretch a small fleet across a continent-sized chessboard. The Arctic test bed is where theory meets salt water, and where Norway's future undersea guardians get their marching orders, one cold, data-rich run at a time. In 2003, a Norwegian-built offshore support vessel quietly slipped into a British dockyard and emerged months later as something altogether new. The ship, once known as MV Topaz Tangaroa, now bore the name RFA Proteus, a title that comes with a mission. No longer just a workhorse for oil rigs, Proteus is the United Kingdom's first multi-role ocean surveillance ship, the flagship for a squadron designed to patrol the invisible front lines of undersea warfare. Her conversion was a race against time. Shipyard crews reinforced the decks, carved out a moon pool for launching underwater vehicles, and installed a 120-ton crane with enough reach to lower drones and remote vehicles deep into the North Atlantic. The old commercial workshops became mission control suites, with secure data links and real-time feeds from the seabed. On the working deck, modular containers can be swapped in and out, each packed with specialized drones, sensors, or rapid response tools, whatever the mission demands. Proteus isn't a warship in the traditional sense. She won't fire torpedoes or chase submarines at flank speed. Instead, her strength lies in what she carries and what she can deploy. Fleets of unmanned underwater vehicles, remotely operated vehicles, and sensor packages capable of sweeping cable routes, inspecting pipelines, and tracking suspicious activity out of sight and out of mind. The ship's dynamic positioning system, borrowed from her offshore days, lets her hold station with meter-level precision, even in the roughest North Atlantic swells. This stability is crucial for launching and recovering delicate robotics, especially when every minute counts. Proteus entered service in October 2003, barely a year after the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage sent shockwaves through European defense ministries. Her squadron isn't just about hardware, it's a data fusion platform built for joint missions with NATO allies, civilian engineers, and cyber teams. The message is clear: the UK can now investigate, deter, and respond to threats on the seabed faster than ever before. For the naval architects and commanders behind her transformation, Proteus is proof that adaptation beats size. In the age of cable wars and pipeline politics, she's the mothership for a new kind of fleet, one that fights with sensors, software, and a swarm of machines beneath the waves. HMS Stirling Castle enters service in 2025, but she is not your grandfather's minesweeper. Instead of dragging chains or risking sailors in contested waters, Stirling Castle operates as a floating command post, a mothership for a new breed of unmanned mine hunters, autonomous underwater vehicles, and remotely piloted vehicles. Her decks bristle with launch bays and modular mission containers, each carrying fleets of underwater drones that can sweep, scan, and neutralize threats without a single human ever slipping below the surface. The Royal Navy calls this the Mine Hunting Capability Program, but the real story is about doctrine. The UK is rewriting the playbook for how navies defend the seabed. Official Ministry of Defence papers, like the 2023 Defence Command paper and the Integrated Review, do not just mention undersea threats in passing. They dedicate entire sections to protecting cables, pipelines, and energy nodes, putting the seabed on a par with space and cyber as a domain that demands specialized tools and tactics. Parliamentary hearings echo the urgency, with members of Parliament urging the Ministry of Defence to treat the seabed as a battle space in its own right. While the legal language stops short of full domain status, the operational shift is hard to miss. The Royal Navy now trains officers for seabed warfare, runs dedicated exercises off the Scottish coast, and fields units whose only job is to investigate, deter, and respond to undersea tampering. Stirling Castle is not just a ship, she is a doctrine afloat. Her mission modules can be swapped in hours, from mine hunting to pipeline inspection to rapid response cable repair. On board, civilian engineers and naval operators work side by side, fusing data from sonar, satellite, and cyber sources into a single picture of what is happening beneath the waves. The shipyard teams behind her conversion, led by veterans of the Proteus project, designed every system for speed, resilience, and adaptability. If a new threat appears, Stirling Castle can reconfigure and redeploy before most navies have even filed their readiness reports. This mothership approach is more than a technical upgrade. It is institutional buy-in. The UK is not just reacting to the last crisis, it is preparing for the next one. By treating the seabed as a contested domain and putting real ships and real people behind the doctrine, Britain is signaling to allies and adversaries alike the days of ignoring what happens under the waves are over. Now the seabed has a navy of its own, and Stirling Castle is leading the fleet. 13 hulls, 1 mission. That's the combined force taking shape under the Norway, UK Type 26 deal. A £10 billion handshake that's as much about deterrence as it is about hardware. 5 frigates for Norway, 8 for Britain, all cut from the same BAE Systems blueprint and armed for the kind of underwater chess game that defines the North Atlantic. These aren't just ships, they're stealth hunters, tuned for silence and built to outfox the most elusive adversaries. The Type 26's quiet hull design means sonar operators hear the ocean, not their own engines. Its modular mission bay can swap out anti-submarine drones, towed arrays, or rapid response gear in a matter of hours. For procurement chiefs in Oslo and London, the logic is simple. Identical ships mean seamless operations. That translates to joint training, shared logistics, and the option to rotate crews across borders when the pressure's on. The Royal Navy's captains praise the flexibility, one day tracking a Russian sub, the next overseeing a multinational exercise with a Norwegian team on board. On the Norwegian side, defense planners talk about covering 2 million square kilometers of ocean with a fleet that's lean but always present, always listening. This isn't just a show of force, it's a force multiplier. Together, the 13-ship squadron forms the backbone of NATO's Northern Shield, able to hunt, track, and, if needed, respond in lockstep. The price tag may raise eyebrows, but for both nations, it's insurance against the kind of surprises that start with a cable cut and end with a crisis. In the era of seabed warfare, synergy isn't a buzzword. It's the difference between seeing the threat and being blindsided. Encrypted fiber optic links now carry more than just data. They serve as the nervous system for Allied defense. After the Nord Stream pipeline blasts in September 2022 sent shockwaves through European capitals, intelligence officers from Oslo to London began treating every undersea cable as a potential fault line. The lesson was simple. Sabotage isn't science fiction, it's strategy. When a single explosion can scramble gas flows and rattle global markets, the margin for error shrinks to zero. Analysts sift through terabytes of sensor logs, tracking ship movements, acoustic anomalies, and unexplained outages. British and Norwegian teams share threat assessments in real time, patching together a mosaic of risk from the North Sea to the Arctic Circle. This isn't just about hardware, it's about the invisible web of information that lets allies spot danger before it becomes disaster. The RAND Corporation, in a 2023 report, called it out plainly. Europe's security will hinge on tight allied coordination in subsea defense. The data chain now runs deeper than the cables themselves. Every ping, every anomaly, every unexplained drop in connectivity becomes a clue in a wider contest. Intelligence networks fuse naval, cyber, and satellite feeds into a single encrypted stream. The stakes are clear. Whoever controls the flow of information controls the future of the seabed. And in this new domain, trust isn't given. It's verified, packet by packet, in the dark beneath the waves. By the end of this decade, the North Sea and Arctic patrol grid won't look anything like the fleets of old. Norway and the UK are doubling the size of their autonomous underwater fleet. An expansion that's less about showing off and more about making sure no gap goes unwatched. Procurement schedules read like a tech startup's growth chart. New huge inner UVs rolling off the line, drone motherships booked for sea trials, and software upgrades arriving faster than the paint dries on a hull. The target is clear. By 2030, the number of unmanned patrol sorties will have doubled, covering everything from deep water cables to coastal pipelines. But it's not just about numbers, it's about openness. Norway's 2025 Arctic test bed isn't a closed shop. Allied navies, NATO tech teams. Even private sector engineers are being invited to trial their latest hardware in real-world conditions. The result is a sandbox where tomorrow's defense tools get hammered, frozen, and debugged long before they ever see a crisis. Engineers from Kongsberg swap notes with Royal Navy drone specialists, while NATO coordinators run scenarios that test both machines and the people behind them. This isn't a race to match adversaries hull for hull. It's a leap ahead, betting that flexibility, speed, and cross-border collaboration will outpace any rival's next move. With every new drone in the water and every terabyte of seabed data streamed back to command, Norway and the UK are quietly rewriting the rules for what it means to patrol the world's most contested waters. The future isn't just manned, it's autonomous, networked, and open to those who can keep up. Russian Yanta-class vessels have a knack for showing up where they're least wanted. These so-called research ships, bristling with submersibles and cable-handling gear, have been tracked by open-source sleuths, shadowing critical infrastructure from the Arctic down to the British Isles. In 2022, Yanta loitered off Norway's northern coast, its AIS transponder flickering on and off as it drifted near the Svalbard cable routes. A year later, similar patterns surfaced near Scotland, just as the Shetland internet cable went dead. Official reports call the cause unknown but suspicious, but maritime insurers and OSINT analysts have their own shorthand. When the data goes dark, so does the ship. Not to be left out, China has ramped up its own undersea ambitions. Annual spending on marine research and seabed mapping has soared to over $1.1 billion, fueling a new wave of survey vessels and deep-sea drones. Their routes are global: North Atlantic, Arctic margins, anywhere the digital arteries of the West run close to the seabed. Western intelligence circles call it dual-use science, mapping today, options for mischief tomorrow. The scale is hard to ignore. 40% growth in just 3 years, with fleets of AUVs scouring continental shelves and cable corridors. Every unexplained outage now triggers a forensic scramble. The 223 Shetland cable cut left islanders isolated for days, with banking and emergency lines rerouted through backup systems. The repair ships arrived under escort, but the lesson was hardwired. Adversaries don't need a fleet, they need a few well-placed assets, plausible deniability, and a willingness to operate in the gray. The race for the seabed isn't just about who has the most drones or the fastest repair crews. It's about who can see the threat coming and who's willing to act before the next cable goes quiet. In January 2022, the Svalbard undersea cable was severed, leaving Norway with an 11-day gap in critical communications, an event that exposed the fragility of Europe's seabed infrastructure. In response, Norway deployed Kongsberg UVs and announced a dedicated maritime testbed to defend nearly 2 million square kilometers of Arctic waters. The UK followed by launching RFA Proteus in 2023 and commissioning HMS Stirling Castle for autonomous mine countermeasures, openly naming the seabed as a new strategic domain. Despite these advances, the full details behind incidents like the Svalbard and Shetland cable cuts remain classified, and the true extent of foreign activity beneath the waves is still unknown. RAND and NATO warn that future stability depends on allied coordination and constant innovation. As of today, Norway and the UK lead the way in undersea defense, not by chance, but by urgent necessity. The struggle for control beneath the oceans has already begun.